welcome to Go For Your Life. Thank you so much for tuning in and giving me your listening ears. Woohoo! This is a podcast for everyone, about everything, and it's to encourage, inspire, uplift you to go for your life. And it is presented and hosted by myself, Caro, and my sweet dog Sparky. Give it up for him. I hope you're ready. Enjoy.
So, welcome back to another episode of Go For Your Life. And I'm here with my wife.
With the wifey.
Yes, already. So, I'm here with my best friend, my wife, my sister, my everything, really, Lisa. So, Lisa is back, and we're nearly going to, I don't know if you even noticed, Lisa, but we're nearly going to episode 100. Yes, yes.
Wow.
Yes,
No,
I
I
know, I know.
don't
And I
know.
think you were in the first, I think number 3 or 4 or something, you were actually on the show. So it's nice to have you back.
Yes, last time
Woohoo!
that we did this was in Portugal.
In Portugal, the boss
Yes.
ladies, and you still are a boss lady. You still are a boss lady.
So
Uh,
so are you?
Still are boss ladies over here. But we thought so. I'm releasing this episode around the time of being married for 1 year. That's going to be me. And you also recently got married.
Yeah.
Congratulations, congratulations. In last July. It's already like, it feels like it was yesterday that we were standing in that rain, but it wasn't. It wasn't.
I was just gonna say it already now feels like a long time ago, but
Yeah. Well,
because it's so different now. Starting to
yeah.
get cold, and yeah, it just was a different season.
Different season, different times. Yes. But I was inspired. Well, first of all, of course, your wedding was incredible, and it's very special to be, someone's wife, and then seeing and witnessing when they get a husband officially. So that was, I don't think that was my first ever experience of, oh, my wife has a husband now. So that was interesting, but also I thought it would be so nice, and this is also why. So this episode is really for me, and about like why I thought of you was like, yeah, let's just talk about why boss ladies and independent ladies and just women, very independent women like ourselves, why,
Mhm.
because I think you and me also, we get this question all the time, like, so why are you even married, like why did you get married, like, and specifically a little bit in the tone of like, why did you get married, like what, as if, I would never
Yeah.
think that someone like you would get married.
I
So,
think you probably
you
get
know
that more.
yeah,
just because,
probably.
just because you
Probably.
I would say even you look even less traditional probably on the
Yeah,
outside. So
that's
I
true.
think
That's true.
that question is something that you get more like in that way.
Yeah.
Um I got a lot of, oh my God, like, oh, so exciting and wow. And it just, in
Hmm.
the beginning, it felt like it was a bit bigger for other people than it was
Yeah.
for me, in a way.
Yeah.
But that also changed throughout the process, let's say. But
Yeah.
I definitely also got that question, like, oh, and my husband as well, actually, Luis, got this question also because he is also in he doesn't have a lot of married friends, and in also his, I would say his friend group is also not, let's say, the more alternative crowd, and he got, actually probably got this question more than I did.
Hmm.
Why are you getting married,
And so what's the answer for you? Why did you get married, Lisa?
Um,
Why? Why?
why? Yeah, so I I think the reason kind of changed throughout the throughout the
The
from
process or something.
I'm yeah I think so I never really wanted to get married. I thought like, oh, I'm not going to get married. It's, too traditional, or it's, something that I didn't really see for myself. But Luis and I, we went on, I think we have our 8-year anniversary probably
Mhm.
soon. Or we just had it. So we always sort of jokingly talked about like, oh yeah, we're gonna get married, or I think we just had this mutual understanding that even without being married, we saw each other as partners for life.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was always something that we jokingly talked about, but I didn't really feel the need, and I don't think Luis did either, to really do it, really follow through on it. And then he brought it up again because he started doing this crazy cycling where he's going on these crazy 1,000 kilometer, quite dangerous ultra distance races. And then he sort of said like, oh, maybe we should actually get married, because if something happens to me, then we're family, and then you can actually see me in the hospital and get all the information and so on. So that was then, I think, when we were like, okay, yeah, I think we should probably do this. And then we started talking about how do we want to do this? Is this just like very similar to what you and Miguel did? Are we just gonna go to City Hall, just the two of us? And I think the more we talked about it, the more I also changed my mind, in the sense that I did not only want to get married, so we're officially married, but it's really a commitment, I think, yeah, the more we talked about it, the more it became about, yeah, we do want to share our life together, and we are committed to each other. So it became a bit more romantic, I think, than it was in the beginning. Yeah.
Mhm. Because in the beginning you felt like it was more like, oh yeah, we are nothing to each other on paper, so we better be something together on paper, with like visiting someone in a hospital, like you were
Yeah,
mentioning,
it was
for
very
example.
logical, let's say. It was just
Yeah.
very like, yeah, we need to, if something happens to either one of us, like we need to, if
Be
we're
married.
married, yeah,
Mm.
we're officially a couple. We're
Yeah.
legally we have a different status, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
sort of like where it started. But it really, I think for me, it really, like the idea became bigger. And after we made that decision, it became a lot more about, because we also often talked about it, because people were asking, oh, like, why are you getting married? And so the more we talked about it, the more also the conversation was about, we're committed to each other, and we love each other. And I think that's also ultimately why we chose to have a wedding, which maybe in comparison to other weddings was not a huge wedding, but we chose to have a wedding where we invited family and our closest friends, and we did want to share that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I would say it was definitely not small though,
It was
but
not
it was,
small, no. I think we were like
no.
50,
How many were you?
just about 50 people, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it was a very special day, because I don't know, I think that when you do make the decision of getting married, I think it's nice that you do it like you want to do it,
Yeah.
because I think that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think that really, for me, that was really important. I think, because also you said, like with you and me and a lot of other people out there are feminists, and I would say we're very
Yeah.
vocal about being feminists. So I do
Mm-hmm.
also think that part of the reason that maybe in the beginning I thought like, oh, I don't want to get married, is because I thought that would maybe be the more feminist thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
or to say
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you don't want to get married.
Yeah.
And I've changed, obviously. I changed my mind about that. But
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was still really important that the things we do at our wedding and the way that we celebrate our wedding is the way that we want it to be, and not because there's certain traditions or certain ways to do things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also something to break down, is like, even though like I think wedding is like this sort of traditional, like we know it as a traditional thing, we can still make it our own, like
Yeah.
I think. And also what you're saying about the feminist thing, like I think, well, first of all, real men are feminists. Let's also like put that aside. Like, and we're both lucky enough that we found two men who are also feminists, because I think that that's also something that a lot of people forget or they make jokes about, but like men are most likely of course also feminists, and we now live in a society where we have non-binary people, trans people, we're not like all this sort of like getting too much on the gender, or like on I think that that's a kind of a bit old-fashioned these days, so I think that for me to be like, oh, I thought you'd never be a woman that would get married, is a little bit, it's nearly an offense. It's offensive,
Yeah.
because it's like, okay, why, what's so wrong about me, or
Yeah.
what's so, as you were saying, like, why couldn't I, just because I'm not of a non-traditional kind, or I look a bit different, or I'm very alternative, like,
Yeah.
still means you know, you want,
Yeah.
and the same with Luis, like, as you were saying, with your friends or his friends. Yeah, I think you stand out when you've made this choice, and it just fits for you both, right?
Yeah, I
So.
think that's I also recently listened to like, is a podcast that I listen to a lot. It's called Unladylike, a really great podcast.
Mhm.
And they had an episode with the actress from Dear White People,
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ashley Blaine Featherston Jenkins, I think is her name. And
Mm-hmm.
and it was about a listener had sent in a question, and this listener was going to get married, and she was like, should I take my husband's name or not? And if I like, am I still a feminist if I do, but if I don't do it, because
Yeah.
I think it's more so it was about this, and she said something that I 100% agree with, is that the most feminist thing you can do is like do what you want as a woman,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
if you want, like, if you have reasons why you want to take the name, do it, and it's not less
Mm-hmm.
feminist because of that. And if there's reasons that you don't want to take, then don't, so
Yeah.
it's I also in regards to the wedding, I think, like, if this is something that you want to do, and whichever way you want to do it, also if you want something that is more traditional, that can still be feminist, if it's something
Mm-hmm.
you want, because you thought about it and it works for you, or it works for the two of you, and it's not because of certain standards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
So
I mean, it's a really good point you're making, because I think what you're saying is also just that you're standing in your power, like, so
yeah,
whatever it is that makes you happy.
yeah,
And also I think you live in Germany, I live in Holland. Those are countries where people are extremely opinionated, in general. So I think that people also just have an opinion on, like, no, this is how I see married life. And it's, I like that also you and I are people that, and Luis and Miguel also, that we just, for us it's a very different, like, we really did make it our own, so I
yeah,
think that that's an important thing. And a question, of course, I always gotten as well, I'm sure you did too: do you now feel different, or how has married life been so far for the last few months, because you've been married now for a few months?
I think after, like, the first 2 months, I think after the wedding, felt very different, which I didn't expect. But I think we really had, like, this, without going on like a big honeymoon, like we went cycling for a week.
Hmm.
we I think we really had a honeymoon period where
Hmm.
um I don't know, you just fall in love with each other all over again, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was really, I think what I felt was like the most different. It was just so special, you know, and just reminded me of what we have. And I would say now, I don't feel very different. So after, let's say, like that honeymoon, like that's the first month of like the honeymoon period, I don't feel super different, but because we both also have a wedding ring, um I just get reminded of it a lot, and that makes me really happy. So I
Mm-hmm.
often, I don't know, I'm sort of like, you know, like you're playing with with the ring, or
Mm-hmm.
that yeah, it's just, it was a really beautiful day. So
Yeah.
in that sense, I really like to be reminded of that day. But I
Mm-hmm.
think for our we were already very committed to each other, and I guess it is in a way like now we're even, maybe, yeah, maybe it's being even more committed, but in the daily life I don't feel that different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, but it's like as you were, I think it's different for everyone. And I can kind of agree with you as well, because I think that that kind of felt the same for us, you know, because we, you know, we got married and then we had a honeymoon where we went to Switzerland, and it felt the exact same way. Like, wow, you know, like when you make that commitment to each other, it is beautiful, and you kind of go, yeah, you sort of relive that first, yeah, that first time period of you getting together, and like, and you're just reminding yourself of like, oh yeah, yeah, I know why I want to be with this person.
Yeah, for sure.
And today was actually really interesting because I had someone over here, and she's actually going through divorce right now,
Mm-hmm.
and she was sort of saying like, I don't know a lot of people. She's probably early 40s. I don't know a lot of people who are happily married, you know, and
Yeah.
that's also another thing. You know, I think that, you know, it's not, we are a different generation now. Like, as you know, my parents stayed together when actually they should have divorced, I don't know, 40 times already,
Yeah.
which they never did. But, you know, I think that, you know, we come from a generation like our parents just wouldn't do it because they were ashamed, or they would do, you know, like you just didn't do that. But it's a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit easier now to divorce. So I think that that's also something to think about, like, you know, like how, yeah, like I don't know what the question is, but it's a bit like, what I'm saying is like, it was just interesting for her to sort of go through divorce, and she was like really mentioning like, wow, I don't think I know people who are as happily married as you and Miguel, and that made me like, of course, well, happy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it also made me think, you know, and that's, I think that might be my question, is to go to you and Luis's relationship. Like, you know, if you look back on the relationship and in relationship in general, like, what is your view of, like, in this time where people are all just breaking up, going through divorces, and it's just a harder time for everyone, I think.
Mm.
In
Yeah, I mean, I think on the one hand, it is a positive thing that I think people who go through more divorces.
Mhm,
Obviously sounds a bit strange when you just got married, but I think that I would also say the fact that there's more divorces is because there's more uh, independence from women. Because
mhm,
I would say in the past, often women didn't get divorced because they were depending on the husband.
mhm.
So in that sense, I think it is a good development that you don't have to stay with a partner um, because you're, in most cases, you're financially depending on each other, even though that's still often the case that the woman is
Mhm,
depending on the men, way more than the other way around. Uh,
mhm.
but I also, just speaking for myself, um, it's also, it can be sometimes really hard to be in a committed relationship, you know. Um,
Mhm.
and I think that also in the future we will have to work a lot on the relationship.
And what is hard? Like, let's quickly take a
Yeah.
step back. Like, as Jonathan and Vanessa would say, Lisa, let's unpack that.
let's unpack that.
Let's unpack the hard, like what is hard about having, because I think a lot of listeners would be like, yeah, maybe some people don't even want to be in a relationship because of the thing you just said, because it's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, it is hard. I mean, I was not so I think like Louise is also has been very quickly also my longest relationship. I did not really have a lot of I think the longest relationship that I had before was a year. So I was always very independent and not very willing to make compromises and just what I want to do. And that is different when you're in a relationship. Like you have to compromise with the other person. And it's not like for me, that's sometimes really hard. And I do think that while you have that sense that the other person is always there, that you can depend on each other, which is a really beautiful thing. On the other hand, it's also like, but they're also always there.
Yeah.
So if you spend every day together and you have to, I don't know, do very practical things like run a household together and discuss a lot of things, that are going on, like decisions that you have to make, and you have to discuss all of that with the other person. There's a lot of potential for conflict, I would say, and definitely in the relationship that Louise and I have, we do often have conflict. As you know, I think in some ways we're very similar in some ways, like in the sense that we do like to be right, for example.
Yeah.
But we're also very different in other ways, in the sense that maybe I have a way how I need to talk conflict out, which is not always the same. And he often doesn't have that. He often just wants to just leave it and then maybe pick it up later. So that also sometimes makes a conflict even stronger. So you do go through a lot of conflict, and it's not always great, but I think if you're in a position where the happy times and the good times and the good feeling that you give each other, if that is the more if that is the majority of the time, then I have come to realize I'm also okay and accept the other part, but so it's maybe also it's a little bit of expectation management. Like is no one ever teaches you how you have relationships, no one ever tells you, I don't know, you don't learn in school, like how do relationships work, like how do you keep a relationship going, like all this is, so I think there's all these expectations about how it should be, and then maybe when you're in it, it's like, oh, it is not only all the great and positive sides, but there's also some that you need to do.
Of course. No, I mean, like, and that's what you meant also with the work, the hard work.
Yeah. But I think that if you put in the work, in my case, I get something very special out of it, and I'm sure in your case also, because we do have really incredible partners, and so but I also understand, and if maybe one of the two is not willing to put the work in, or you have to put the work in but you just can't make it work, then don't be unhappy together, then
exactly. That's also, I think, what you were going towards when you were explaining, like, it's also good that we can divorce now, like you also need to know when to end it, like you need to know when this isn't working, and like I think the best thing sometimes is to know when to quit also. And something is like,
also, and probably also really important thing is but also to maybe know when to interfere before, so maybe it just has gone too far, I think that is something that I hope that we will not fall into this trap where you just let things go on you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's these periods where all you do is like just talking about logistics and talking about, I don't know, who's gonna clean and who's gonna do this
Yeah.
and who's gonna do that. And it's
Just walking
really,
the dog.
yeah, walking the dog, all these things.
Hmm. Yeah.
And is really important. And I'm sure, like for example, for couples with children, that's probably
Yeah.
even more. Is, you
Don't
know,
even know, like,
if
don't
you,
even know how that
yeah, you
works.
share
No.
this responsibility also.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think, yeah, we do talk a lot. Like we have talked about this quite a bit, and I'm also very in favor of just maybe going into couples therapy at some point, and probably doing it rather earlier than later, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think also, before I get to my next question, which is, so what to you is
Mm.
a perfect relationship, and what makes a good relationship? Like, that's the next
Mm.
thing. And before we go in that, I met the Swami this year, and her father was a divorce lawyer. And
Mm.
just what you said about the compromise, and apparently he said he used to always say to his clients, okay, do you want to be right, or do you want to be married?
Yeah.
And that's a really, like, I always think about
Yeah.
that when Miguel and I, as you know, like, we hardly ever fight, because also Miguel just doesn't care, or I can't be bothered, so we don't clash as much. But sometimes he is right about something, and I'm like, I'm still sort of ready to to fight it. And then I think of this sentence like, Caro, do you want to be right, or do you want to be married? So there's also this time where sometimes you just need to sort of let it go as well. Like, this isn't even important.
Yeah.
He is right. I should just, take one for the team or something. So I think that for me, when I think about, like, what's a good relationship, is communication is key, and
Mhm.
definitely knowing when to just give up the fight and compromise, of course, because
Yeah.
and that's, for me, like you, I think the hardest thing to do sometimes, because I just don't want to,
Yeah, for
you know.
sure. For sure. I think, and I think that's often where yeah, where where the conflicts lie, you know, is
Mhm.
I um I mean, I want to be married, but I also
But you
want
also
to
be right, exactly. I think of you all the time also, Lisa, when I hear that. The first time I heard it, I was like, good reminder for my wife.
I think it's
Yeah.
probably one of my worst qualities, let's say, but yeah, it I recognize it, and I mean, I really like over the years have
Hmm.
worked on this, and so has
Yes.
Louise.
Yes,
Um,
definitely. I'm the witness of that. I would definitely agree with that, for sure. For sure. You have grown up, definitely. Lots of growing
yeah,
up that has happened. Yeah.
yeah,
But you also, I mean, you guys got together when you were like early 20s, mid 20s. You're now like early 30s, mid 30s. Like, there's a lot that there's a, that's also the beauty, I think, of your relationship with Louise. Like, I mean, I'm nearly 10 years older than you both. And so it's also that feeling of, like, yeah, I think that there's also this incredibly important period of your life that you're sharing together. Both, like you said, oh, I had a relationship of a year. It's also not that Louise had really long or very serious
yeah.
relationships and
I
really
mean,
knew,
it was young.
so it's, yeah.
He was like we met, like Louis was yeah, beginning of his 20s, and
Hmm.
a bit older.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, he had longer before we got into our, like, you know, into our relationship. His previous relationships were longer than mine.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think that's also just, I think, a bit of a personality thing, you know, if you're
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. I mean, it's just beautiful growth that you both been through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, we went, as you and Miguel also did, right? Like we went from like we moved to different countries. We moved to
Hmm. Yeah.
cities,
Portugal.
Portugal, Germany, you know, for you, Australia, Portugal,
Yeah.
and
Holland. Yeah.
Netherlands, you know, and yeah,
Yeah.
we and Luis and I, we also, yeah, we moved quite a few times. And also yours, as much as my life circumstances changed a lot, right? Through
Yeah.
not having our cafe anymore.
hmm
I would say our lifestyle probably changed quite a bit, and yeah, and we had like this relationship throughout all that change, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's another thing also to mention to those of you who are listening. That Lisa and I used to run our own vegan cafe in Portugal, and these two now husbands, like, were just legends. I mean, they literally had to give up their life for a few years. Lisa and I did as well, but we did it quite consciously. Like, oh, we're gonna have this cafe, but these boys were just dragged into it,
Yeah,
like there was no tomorrow. So like
yeah.
they just get an award just for that, you know, like.
But and then I just think that that because I mean the dimensions maybe change because we don't have the cafe anymore, but I think
Mhm.
you, as much as for me, our husbands didn't change in
No,
the unconditional support that they give us, you know.
absolutely. Yeah, we're so lucky.
And I think it's just one of the things that from the beginning just stood out for me
Yeah.
in Louis,
hmm
is just, you know, that loyalty and
hmm Yeah.
support and always being there, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, because
And
that's also, I think, that's a wonderful thing to have, you know, that kind of, because also I think in general, loyalty, not just in a relationship, a romantic relationship, but loyalty in general is something that I struggle with a lot. Also, when I look at my yoga teaching, for example, people aren't loyal. People just want to go, I have a class pass and I'll go to every freaking studio I can in a week. I'm not loyal to you. I'm not loyal to anybody else. I'm just going to do whatever the shit I want, you know? So that's the thing, that kind of loyalty, of like even loyalty towards a person, is definitely something that is slowly disappearing. I think, you know, we can all learn from Luis and Miguel and Sparky and Miso very much in that sense, you know. So I think that that's a beautiful um talent nearly, but also a beautiful personality trait to have.
yeah, and I think that that is also what I value most in our
hmm
relationship is just that, you know, support for each other and loyalty towards each other in
hmm
whatever the other person wants to do, really, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And supporting that, because I do think that's probably I also one of the things that I hope will make our marriage last forever, um is that happiness for the other person to do what they like to do,
hmm hmm hmm
and the willingness to support that,
Yeah.
um in obviously like within a framework where it works for us
Both
as a
parties.
couple, as a
hmm
community with our dog also. You know, like but there was time like when we were in Portugal, I would say oftentimes like my needs, or the business needs, let's say, which really translated into my needs, were going first.
Yeah.
um but so I also I think I try to be now supportive and loyal in the same way as Louise has been, you know. And
hmm
I
Yeah.
think, yeah, just that willingness to change with the other person. um yeah, I hope that we never lose that.
hmm
I think that that is hopefully what will make us um yeah, a strong couple
Yeah.
in the
Yeah,
future.
and I think without looking too much, like, you know, like, to come back to the question of like, what is a good relationship, or what do you feel is a good relationship, without making like, let's try to step away from, like, you know, we've now really spoken about Luis and Miguel, like our partners and
Mm.
stuff. But if we just like not even look at your own relationship, but if you look like a relationship in general, specifically a romantic relationship, what is the secret in a way of a good one? Like, what in your opinion, without like making it too personal and only looking at the one that you have?
Mhm. I think um the so I think throughout life, you always change as a person. You know, there's
Mm-hmm.
so many, and sometimes it's maybe just logistical changes and very like
Mm-hmm.
changes, and sometimes there's maybe changes that you go through as a person. So it's probably probably the most important thing is that um you go and accept and maybe support that change in your
Mm-hmm.
partner, you know, and don't try to work against it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Yeah.
that's probably where it goes wrong is
Mm-hmm.
there's yeah I said, I think um even when changes are small, you know, if I think if you just um don't support that change, uh,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that that is probably not very good for the relationship. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that is I could see as something that is really important in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and um, talking to each other, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah, communication,
probably the
definitely.
moment where you stop talking about things. Um, and it's all about I think the moment that you stop talking is because you communicate only by expectations, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I would say also where where it goes wrong, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because um my expectations are often very different
Mm-hmm.
to and not only in a marriage but in general, right? Like in general in life you have expectations towards towards other people, and
Mm-hmm.
if you don't communicate them, there's a
Yeah.
very high chance that they will not be fulfilled because people can't read your mind.
Mm-hmm.
um so
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's a good one. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think I once saw, I can't even remember who was this, but there was like a famous Hollywood couple or something, and they were quite famous because they were still together after 40 years, you know, specifically in Hollywood. Of course, it doesn't happen much. I can't remember who it was, but he said, like, yeah, but our secret is we don't just love each other, we also like each other.
Yeah.
And he was sort of saying, you know, like, loving each other is easy, but liking each other is like,
Yeah.
you know, that's something else. And I always think of that, of like, yeah, it's because you fall in love and you know you love each other, this and that, but like, do you then also really like each other? Like, do you really, you
Hmm.
know, and can you handle the like and dislikes, you know? And
Yeah.
how do you like, there's certain things that you might not like about your partner, but you have to sort of go to yourself and go like, okay, I'm really disliking this, but maybe it's also a mirror towards yourself, or you know, like,
Mhm.
you gotta also deal with the dislikes, you know, like, okay, I don't really like that about the person, but you know, I'm giving him my life, so I just gotta get over it, you know.
Yeah. 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 And but I do also think that if there's very let's say very essential um maybe parts of the personality of the other
Hmm.
person that you don't like, then it also
Yeah.
becomes really difficult, you know. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot that you can um yeah, compromise on and go through like yeah, just you know, make yourself also accept certain things. But I think in the end, like what you're saying, you have to like the essence of that person.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, that's the bottom line here, really.
And
The
sometimes I
essence.
think yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe that and what I do think though is that that essence can change, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
That who because your personality in like not you know not every core part of your personality, but you can like people do change through with the experiences that you make, or
Hmm.
experience that you want to make, and so you have to also continue to like that,
Yeah.
you know. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
No, and I think, like, so when you look at your work also, because you're also no longer really, but have worked as a psychologist. I mean, you still use your psychology work in your work now, but as a
Mm,
psychologist, when you were still working with clients, less patients, like, can you go back to like, oh yeah, what were there a lot of people that had the same issues when it came to when it comes to relationships, or is there, I don't know, is there like a downfall a lot of people have when they think of relationship in a relationship, like they have a shared grief to have.
I think I did not quite understand the last part of your question because it was a little bit like breaking up, but I think that that what I said before, this having expectations but not talking about them. I think that is probably for the most people where maybe it gets difficult in but also probably in the relationship with themselves, you know. And in relationships at work, in personal relationships, I think often it's about having certain expectations and then not communicating them and then being disappointed in when these expectations are not being met.
So I think 2 or 3 times now I've done like sessions with Barbara Burgers. She's like a life coach, and we once talked about this as well. Like, do you see common, not necessarily problems, but do you see common things back when it comes to relationships? And with your work as a psychologist, like, can you could you pinpoint like, oh yeah, this is a common, I hate using the word mistake, but like maybe a common sort of error that a lot of people go into or have in their minds as what a perfect relationship is, like, do you see a common ground globally, maybe even in people and relationships?
Yeah. I mean, I have limited experience as a psychologist because I left that field, so I just to not put myself out there as an expert by any means, but I think it's often about expectations, and I think I said this before today. It's about having expectations and not communicating them. And not only in like a personal relationship, but also like I think this is goes for all relationships, professional relationships that you have, personal relationships, relationships with family, and I would definitely not exclude myself from that, and just having certain expectations, maybe also sometimes from yourself, and then not communicating those expectations and then being disappointed when the expectations are not being met. And I think that's and I think and coming back to that in a personal relationship and maybe in a marriage scenario, I think the less you communicate, the more normal it becomes that you don't communicate your expectations.
Yeah.
And then they just sort of become your own little world, that maybe the other person knows nothing about.
Yeah.
I think that's probably where a lot of conflict lies.
Yeah, and I think that's really valuable what you're saying. I think it's really like something to work on, and I think it's also one of the hardest things. Like same in a yoga class when someone tells you just let go. Like, how the hell do I do that? Like it's not enough to just say let go. Or it's same with expectations. You always have them. So I think that's one of the hardest jobs in life in general. Remember when we had the cafe and you would say to me, "Oh, you got 4 people coming tonight to class." I always said to you, "Let's see." So because that's the one thing that I kind of trained myself in as well. Is like, I'm not gonna expect them to come. They told you in the cafe when you were like, very excited talking about my classes, and they're like, "Oh my god, I want her excitement. I'm gonna come." But then 9 out of 10 times they don't. So it's also about like managing your expectation levels in life, I think, is something that I have really put a lot of work in, and I still do. I still just go, hey, I'm here. You're always welcome. I'm not going to expect you to come next week, but
Yeah.
see how you go, kind of thing. So I think that handling and managing expectations is a very tricky and a very difficult task. It's doable, but you got to sort of, and it's different for everyone how you do that. But I think it's a good, I don't know, advice to me would be like, hey, see how for you it works. How do you manage your expectations? Because I think that that's difficult.
Yeah. And the example that you just gave is really for expectations within the professional environment, right? So
Yeah.
you kind of manage your own expectations in a
Mhm.
way that you don't basically have too many, so
Yeah.
they're not being disappointed.
Yeah.
Also because in that professional environment, it's also really difficult and maybe also even a bit weird or strange to communicate your expectations to everyone. So maybe you'd rather like manage your own.
Yeah.
But then I also think if in a relationship, if all you do is manage your own expectations, so they're not too high, then that also can't be good for the relationship.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to go through that, and that's really I think for some people more difficult than others. But first of all, communicating your needs and your expectations, that's already really hard.
Yeah.
And plus, often I don't even know what my needs or my expectations are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Often, yeah, you also maybe get into a conflict situation, and then after you realize, like, oh, this is why I was
Even
upset.
now.
Why
Yeah.
I was upset, because I had these expectations that I wasn't
Yeah.
really aware of myself. So it's
Exactly.
also this like ever ongoing learning process where you have to learn about yourself, as well as the other person.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think like it's good to check in with each other as well. You know what I mean? Like, and
Mm-hmm.
this is professional level, personal level, but specifically, I think in a romantic relationship, sometimes it's good. Like, are you expecting this from me? Because I'm just not aware of that, or like, like,
Yeah.
are you? And that's, I think, a really important thing. And I think that, and just giving, like, that's another thing that I think is important in making your or keeping your relationship fun is also just like really make time for each other. Like in this
Mm-hmm.
time and age that we live in, where everybody's always busy and everybody's always on their mobile phone and everybody's always like on. I think it's important to sort of also, yeah, create spaces where you are really just together, and it is a mobile phone free zone, and you
Mm-hmm.
put some candlelight on and you actually really take the time to be together. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
you know
Yeah, we just a couple of days ago, because I went through this whole I did a year-long course next to my full-time job,
yeah,
and took a lot of my time on the weekends, and um yeah, Louise cycles a lot, so we really had, for sure in the last couple of months, like not a lot of time together. And then we just went bouldering together on Friday,
oh, oh,
which is something that Luis started doing and he's really excited about.
yeah,
And so I came along and it was really fun, and it was just nice to do something new together, and
yeah,
to spend time together again.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think Erica, who of course, my close friend, and you know her as well, calls that with that beautiful Australian accent of hers. Yeah, you just put a new log on the fire. That's like just an activity, and then and that fire starts burning again. So I think that sometimes you need to think about, like, I think we need some more logs on the fire again, and
Yeah.
so and I think that's something that we just have to keep renewing, and we have to keep
Yeah.
it going, because
Yeah.
that fire goes out pretty damn quick otherwise.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And that's, I think, what I meant with that's a really nice way to put it, like what I said in in the beginning as well. You have to put a new log on the fire before it
Yeah,
extinct before
before
it's
it's
out.
gone. Exactly, before it burns out. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So yeah.
And to round up, Lisa, like if you could say, you know, like so someone's listening, is like, will I get married? Will I not get married? I don't really know. Like, what would you say, like, are the three best things for you? About, I mean, we talked about like, oh yeah, this is why I got married, but like, what is so great about being married? When you name 3 or 4 things, like what is for us really like, yeah, I'm really happy I did it. I'm really like, I would. Again, this is just recommending people, giving people advice like, hey, I would do it, but of course it's different for everyone, you know?
Yeah, again, I really stand by the thing that I like, for whatever the reason is for you, like that, or the reason that it's, or why it's not a great thing for you, that's the most important
Yeah.
thing, you know? So I, as you already said, but I would only speak for myself and not say like these are universally great reasons to get married. Yeah, I think looking back, it was really a really special occasion to yeah, celebrate and strengthen our commitment.
Yeah.
You know, I think that for me, looking back is the best reason to get married, you know, is that it didn't really change anything because we were already committed to each other, and but it did make it, that commitment, stronger. And because we also had wedding vows to each other.
Yeah.
And
tissues.
Yes, and that was just I think the most beautiful thing that I ever experienced, you know. And
Same for all of us.
and I mean, Luigi has told me many times before all the reasons why he loved me, but he loves me. But I think it just was so special that it's this promise, you know. It's like a promise of, this is why I love you, and this is why I will continue to love you.
Yeah, exactly.
And that, I think, was very very special and very beautiful, and just, I think, really good for our relationship also.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a really new, huge log on the fire, I would say.
Yeah, and I think also for the record, you know, Luis is a very quiet person. Yeah. So I think, and also for the record, his vows were even more emotional than Lisa's. And I was already like, no, I can't handle this. But Luis did an incredible job. And I think that that's also why it was extra special, because Luis is not necessarily someone that expresses himself utterly in general. So yeah, it was very beautiful. Yeah, amazing. Sure. And I think that that's also what makes you guys so special, you know, is that you also, I think that for me, like the reason why I got married also is like, will I ever find someone who will complete me as much as Miguel? Probably not, you know. And I'm, again, a little older than you guys, and you know, when you get to you freaking close mid-40s now, yeah, it's special. And it's like, I think that for me was one of the reasons why I wanted to get married, is like, you know, you complete me, and it's not enough for me to just say that. It's, I want that on paper. Like, I want to, yeah, I really wanted to make that commitment sort of, I don't know, count more. Like, it sounds a bit crazy, but for me it was really like that paper that has both our names on it, and that day where we were both like, okay, today is the day that I'm going to really commit to this. I think it's an important thing, you know. So, and I'm glad that I did it, and I'm glad that you two did it, you know. I think it makes all the sense when you look at the timeline and the history of your relationship, you know.
Yeah, I think it just made sense for us at that point, you know. I think it was and yeah, I mean, I think also that like my father's death also really played a big part in that.
Yeah.
That was the right moment for us, because it doesn't, like, it, when people that you love very much die or go
Yeah.
away, that does change, or did change my outlook on life a little bit,
Of course.
so I do think that whenever you think it's the right time, then, and if it's never the right time, then that's also just as good,
And just
um
think, also something that I would really love to say also is like, just embrace the love, like we live in a time, and I mean, you and I spoke about this a few times the last few weeks, in this horrible war time that we're facing. And, like, I think that love is something that's really missing in the world. So just embrace the love and just love, like enjoy love. Like if you have love close to you, married or not married, just embrace it, and I think that that's something that, and don't overthink it either. You know what I mean? Like so many people, I feel like they kind of have this ideal,
mhm.
image of the one, and it's, if you have that, I don't think you're ever gonna find it. So just
Yeah, and I think like, just speaking for myself, of what I thought, what I needed, also really changed
yeah, exactly.
throughout my life, really, like from basically the moment that you start thinking about romantic relationships to the moment where I met Luis, my thought of what I needed in a partner is completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
Yeah.
it's, so yeah, I think that that's a good, and one thing that I really wanted to say also, Lisa, and I know you 200% agree with me, just as a sort of disclaimer at the end. Of course, Lisa and I are both straight women with straight men, but we
Mhm.
100%, 200%, celebrate and applaud gay marriage. Whoever you are, whoever you want to marry them, and I just feel very strong about that. And I just wanted to quickly have a disclaimer at the end that, like, of course we 100%, value gay marriage, or, when you're a trans person, when you're a non-binary person, like, of course, like, do whatever you want with whoever you want to do it with. It
Mhm.
has definitely our blessings. And I think that that's something that I just hate, that we still have countries that's a thing. And I have grown up in Holland, and I'm, as I said, already mid 40s, and I grew up when I was a kid with kids that had two dads or two moms, and it was kind of a normal thing, like I grew up in a country where, I mean, unfortunately, Holland also has a very homophobic side still, but for us here, it's been legal for a long time. And
Mm.
wish there were more places that would legalize that, because, a marriage is a marriage. That's
Mhm.
a really important thing to say at the end, I feel.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess being legal on paper never means that it's well received within a society.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so yeah, for sure, it's also talking from a privileged position where all you think about when you ask yourself, do I, like, it's just this: do I want to get married? Do I want to get married to this person? And there's not really any other repercussions that
Yeah,
you have to take into consideration. That maybe other people do face in many different ways. Also, I don't know, maybe you're supposed to only marry someone from, I don't know, the same cultural background or
yeah,
religious background, or yeah, so for sure it's probably for us a lot easier to
100%.
figure this out, because it's only really about what do I want.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
how do I want to do it? Who's going to
How do I
be
wanna
there?
do it?
Like we have
Yeah.
this
Mm.
extreme privilege as white women, straight white women, who, and so in that sense, like, I always think that it's important to acknowledge that, like, that we know
Mhm.
that this for us was a very easy thing to do, and we made
Mhm.
it we made the day especially how we wanted to have it. So I think that's my wish for everyone, is what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say.
Yeah,
I
for
wish we
sure.
live in a world that could be for everyone,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
so yeah, so basically, let love rule, Lenny Kravitz would say. So I wish you and Luis, of course, a very long, 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 long happy life together. And I want to thank Miguel for being crazy enough to marry me. I really do appreciate it.
Will you have a podcast with Miguel talking about your marriage, maybe?
Yeah, so basically what we're going to do for the number 100, which is a few episodes away, is Miguel will interview me. So that's really cool because Miguel's been a co-host a few times. He was, of course, my number 1 episode. That was with Miguel. So I think it's special to have our 100 will be us together. And maybe he will explain a little bit about why he was crazy enough to
Yeah.
say, yes, I do.
Get married.
This one. Yeah. No, it's good. So yeah, I definitely am grateful that it's been a year already, and I hope it's going to be many, many years together. And the same, of course, with us, Lisa. You're my wife, and I also hope that you will be my wife forever. So
yeah, we have an anniversary to celebrate.
we also have an anniversary to celebrate. That is for sure. So please, people that are listening, I hope this inspired you a little bit. We just wanted to, specifically me and Lisa was like, yeah, let's do it. Wanted to share a little bit why independent boss ladies get married. Well, we explained why, and we wish so much love to everybody in this world because, really love is the answer to many, many, many things, especially in a world that is a bit, full of hate at the moment. I think love and light is what we should keep shining out there. So yeah. Have you anything to add to that, Lisa?
Just congratulations to you on your wedding anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's coming up, and thanks for having me again.
Anytime. You're always welcome. I love having you. Yeah, it's really cool. And we'll put some what you said, the other podcast I'll put in the show notes, and I'll also put Louise's episode if people haven't listened to it. Louise has been on the episode not so long ago also, so you can actually get to know that amazing husband that we've been speaking about. That was a lovely episode as well. And I just want to thank you, Lisa, for being in my life, for doing this episode together. And I want to thank everybody for listening. And you know the drill, be good to yourself, be good to others, especially the
husband.
Oh,
I thought husbands.
Be good to yourself, especially the
husbands.
The husband. Okay, we'll do this. Be good to yourself, be good to others, especially the husband and the animals.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all so very much for listening to Go For Your Life. I really appreciate it. And if you liked it, you know what to do. Please leave a review, leave a comment, share it amongst friends, do whatever you can do to support me and this podcast because it is my life. Thank you very much, Miguel, for doing the editing. Thank you so much, Maria, for your beautiful designs. Thank you, Sparky, for being the best co-host ever. Thank you, animals worldwide, for your daily inspiration to keep me going, for always putting that fuel in me. Thank you so, so much, because we know the drill, right? Namaste, vegan. Go, go, go.